When Colonel Assimi Goïta introduced Mali's new mining code in 2023, critics claimed it would destroy the country's mining industry. Western companies, the same companies that had benefited for decades from unequal agreements, were the loudest voices. They warned that investors would flee, that Mali's economy would collapse, that the new rules were too aggressive. But Mali did not bend. The military government stood firm and declared that the era of exploitation was over. They argued that the old mining contracts enriched foreign corporations far more than the Malian people. Despite international pressure, warnings, and attempts to intimidate the government, Mali pushed forward with the new code, refusing to surrender control of its own resources. And today, the results speak for themselves. Mali has announced that it has recovered over $1.2 billion in unpaid taxes and arrears from mining companies. Money that should have reached the Malian economy years ago, but never did under the old system. With one bold policy, Mali began reclaiming what truly belongs to the nation. This moment has sent shockwaves through the global mining industry. In today's documentary, we break down how Mali achieved this victory, why it matters for Africa, and how this single decision is challenging the way the world's major mining companies operate. Before Mali introduced the new mining code, the country's mineral wealth was controlled by laws that overwhelmingly favored foreign companies. These rules were created at a time when Mali had almost no bargaining power, so foreign investors received massive tax exemptions, weak supervision, and, most importantly, full control over production data. In simple terms, mining companies made billions, while Mali received crumbs. And this was happening in a country that is Africa's third largest gold producer. Yet ordinary Malians barely saw the benefits. As Mali's former mines minister explained, gold represents 25% of the national budget, 75% of export earnings, and 10% of the country's GDP. Gold is the backbone of Mali's economy, but under the old system, that wealth slipped through the nation's fingers. For decades, Mali's mining sector, like many others across Africa, was dominated by Western companies. Canadian giants like Barrick Gold and B2 Gold, Australia's Resolute Mining, and Britain's Hummingbird Resources. These corporations held enormous influence over production, profits, and policy. And the most striking part, they continued operating in Mali even during the jihadist insurgency, proving that the mines were profitable enough to survive conflict, yet somehow not profitable enough, under the old rules, to pay Mali what it was truly owed. That imbalance is exactly what the new mining code set out to change. This situation raises a strange and uncomfortable question. In most countries facing severe insecurity, foreign companies usually suspend operations and evacuate staff. But in Mali, and across the Sahel, including Burkina Faso, mining companies continued business almost unchanged, even as terrorist attacks escalated around them. And what makes this even more unusual is that we rarely hear reports of insurgents targeting these foreign mining sites directly. This has led many observers and citizens to wonder whether certain arrangements or informal understandings might be protecting these companies. There is no proven evidence of collaboration, but the pattern is suspicious enough to spark public debate. Still, that is not our focus today. Our focus is how the old mining system allowed the exploitation of Mali's gold sector at the expense of the people. Under that old system, companies were allowed to delay taxes for years, underreport production, export gold with weak oversight, and avoid penalties even when they broke the rules. There was almost no accountability. Transparency was another major problem. Government auditors repeatedly complained that they could not verify how much gold was truly being extracted. Companies controlled the technology, the measurements, and even the financial reporting. In the end, Mali was forced to trust documents written by the same firms earning billions from its mines. Under such a system, detecting fraud or tax evasion became nearly impossible, and Mali lost vast amounts of revenue as a result. Of course, the blame does not fall on foreign companies alone. Mali's previous governments also played a major role in creating this problem. For years, economists warned that the old mining code was outdated and dangerously one-sided. It was written to attract investors, not to protect Mali. And as global gold prices climbed higher and higher, Mali saw almost none of the benefits. The money flowed out of the country, while Mali remained one of the poorest gold-producing nations in the world. Roads stayed broken, schools lacked basic equipment, and mining communities continued living in poverty. Meanwhile, foreign companies reported record profits year after year. This was the reality in 2023 when Colonel Assimi Goïta finally said, "Enough is enough." Just like President Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso, Goïta made sovereignty and true independence the core of his leadership. He understood a simple truth: Mali could not keep giving away its gold while struggling to fund basic services. Mali had to stop being a spectator and start being the owner of its own resources. And that is exactly why, in August 2023, the new mining code was born. A code designed to protect Mali's wealth, strengthen national control, and end decades of quiet exploitation. When Mali introduced its new mining code, it completely shifted the balance of power. For the first time in decades, the Malian state placed itself at the center of mining decisions. And that is exactly why many Western companies reacted with shock and even anger. The era of foreign firms controlling everything was over. The new code brought three major changes that rewrote the rules of the game. The first, and perhaps the most important, was ownership. Under the old agreements, foreign companies controlled almost entire mining operations, while Mali received only a tiny share. But the new law changed that overnight. Mali increased its stake in every mining project, giving the government real power over production, revenue, and national resources. It also opened the sector to Malian private investors and local companies who had been shut out for decades. According to the government's announcement, the new mining code allows the state to take up to 35% ownership in new mineral projects, a massive jump from before, and significantly increases the revenue Mali can collect from its own gold. For a country that had been watching billions leave its borders while its people remained poor, this was not just a policy change, it was a declaration of sovereignty. The second major change was transparency. For the first time in Mali's history, mining companies were required to open their books. No more hidden figures, no more private reporting. Under the new law, companies had to declare their production accurately, allow government inspectors into the mines, and submit to strict auditing procedures. This meant Mali could finally verify how much gold was actually being extracted and whether taxes were being paid correctly. For companies that had benefited from loopholes, weak oversight, and an opaque system, this was a direct threat. The days of operating in the shadows were over. The third change struck at the heart of the old system. Tax holidays were abolished. Under the previous code, foreign companies could operate for years without paying meaningful taxes. Mali introduced realistic taxation, mandatory royalties, and strict penalties for late payments. Even more importantly, the government empowered itself to chase unpaid taxes from previous years, a move that later led to the recovery of more than $1.2 billion in arrears. This wasn't just legal reform. It was Mali taking back control of its wealth, one regulation at a time. These reforms were a direct strike at the old mining order. So naturally, many Western companies pushed back hard. Some threatened to withdraw their investments. Others accused Mali of creating an unfriendly business environment. A few even tried to pressure international institutions to intervene on their behalf. And when the new mining code was introduced, several foreign companies openly refused to comply. Their argument was simple: the mines they operate should continue under the old, favorable rules that were in place when they first entered Mali. Because of this resistance, the implementation of the new code stalled for months. But in 2024, Colonel Assimi Goïta finally lost patience. He made it clear that the mining code was not negotiable. Companies had two choices: follow Mali's laws or leave the country. The government declared that Mali's resources must benefit Malians first, not shareholders in London, Toronto, Paris, or New York. Of course, these companies had no desire to leave. The profits were simply too large. So Colonel Assimi escalated the pressure. In September 2024, Malian authorities briefly detained 4 employees working for Barrick Gold, the world's second-largest gold mining company, as part of an investigation into alleged financial misconduct. It was a bold and unexpected move that sent shockwaves through the global mining industry. For the first time, Mali was showing that it was willing to enforce its laws and confront even the most powerful corporations. This was the moment the world realized the era of Mali being pushed around was over. This marked the beginning of a long and public showdown between Mali and several foreign mining giants, especially Barrick Gold, one of the most powerful players in the global gold industry. After Mali demanded compliance with the new mining code, the government revealed something shocking. Barrick Gold owed about $512 million in unpaid taxes and dividends. According to officials familiar with the investigation, this massive figure covered taxes from 2020, 2021, and 2022. In other words, for more than 3 years, the company had been operating in Mali without paying what it owed. And Barrick was not the only one. The pattern stretched across several Western mining firms, including Australia's Resolute Mining, another dominant operator in the country. Mali responded with unprecedented firmness. The government arrested the CEO and 3 officials of Resolute Mining when they arrived in Mali to resolve their mining code dispute. Resolute, which operates the huge Syama gold mine and owns 80% of the project, while Mali holds only 20%, had also refused to pay its taxes, following the same pattern as Barrick Gold and others. Colonel Assimi Goïta decided to apply real pressure, sending a message the entire global mining industry would hear loud and clear. Mali will no longer tolerate companies extracting wealth without respecting its laws. And here is where the story becomes even more interesting. The arrest triggered a chain of reactions that would shake the mining sector and force some of the world's biggest companies to rethink how they deal with African nations. When the CEO and the 3 officials were first detained, the company immediately released a statement insisting that Mali's claims were false and unsubstantiated. Their goal was clear: shape the narrative and make it seem like Mali had overreacted. But Colonel Assimi Goïta did not flinch. He did not engage in a public argument, nor did he allow the story to be twisted. Instead, he remained firm and calm, signaling that Mali would no longer be intimidated by powerful corporations. And it worked. On Monday, November 18, 2024, Resolute Mining announced that it had agreed to pay its outstanding tax debt. In its official statement, the company admitted that all claims raised by the Malian government, including those related to taxes, customs levies, maintenance fees, and the management of offshore accounts, had been fully settled. Think about that for a moment. Without Colonel Assimi's decisive stance, without the pressure created by firm enforcement of Mali's laws, this victory would likely never have happened. For years, companies operated freely, knowing they would face little resistance. But now, the message was unmistakable. The era of exploiting Mali's resources without accountability was over. With this bold move, Western companies realized something important. They need Mali's gold far more than Mali needs their complaints. And from that moment, the balance of power began to shift. The resistance from these companies is actually what makes Mali's victory even more remarkable. Despite the pushback, the government did not retreat. It did not soften the law. It enforced it. And that enforcement is what led to the historic recovery of more than $1.2 billion. For the first time in decades, Mali was not just writing laws, it was making powerful corporations follow them. Once the new mining code took effect, Mali moved quickly. The government launched a full audit of every mining company operating in the country. Inspectors reviewed financial reports, production data, tax filings, and export records, documents that, in many cases, had never been properly examined before. And what they found was stunning. Many companies owed massive sums in unpaid taxes, royalties, and penalties. Some had underreported production. Others used loopholes to delay payments for years. A few simply ignored their obligations because they knew the old system would never hold them accountable. But under the new code, that era was over. The Malian government sent formal notices demanding that all unpaid dues be settled immediately. As we discussed earlier, several companies resisted. They tried to negotiate. Barrick Gold even threatened to reduce operations and hinted at taking Mali to court. But Mali did not blink. The message from the state was clear, simple, and firm. If you want to mine Mali's gold, you must respect Mali's laws. As the pressure increased, one company after another began to comply. Payments started flowing in slowly at first, then rapidly. By the time the review was completed, Mali had recovered more than $1.2 billion. This was money that should have been paid years ago. For a country like Mali, this is not just a financial victory. It is a national turning point because this money can do a lot. This money can help fund public services. It can strengthen the army. It can improve hospitals and schools. It can support local mining communities that suffered pollution and displacement without receiving fair compensation. But most importantly, it also sends a strong message to other African nations. When a country takes control of its resources, when it enforces its laws, and when it refuses to be bullied by powerful companies, change is possible. But the impact goes beyond money. For the first time in a long time, Malians feel a sense of ownership and pride. They see that their government is willing to fight for them. They see that sovereignty is not just a slogan, it is something that can bring real results. And the global mining industry is now watching Mali closely, because if Mali can recover this much, other African nations may soon follow the same path. Yes, Mali's decision to stand up to mining giants has not gone unnoticed across Africa. In fact, it has become a powerful example of what can happen when a country takes bold action to protect its own resources. Other African nations, especially those with gold, oil, uranium, copper, and rare minerals, are now looking closely at what Mali achieved. For years, many African countries signed mining contracts that favored foreign companies. They were told these deals would bring development. But instead, most of the profit left the continent, while local communities remained poor. Mali's recovery of $1.2 billion has shown African governments that they can challenge unfair agreements and win. Countries like Burkina Faso and Niger are already revising their resource laws. After breaking away from France's influence, they began reviewing mining contracts that were signed under previous governments. They want deals that benefit their citizens, not foreign corporations. Mali's success gives them confidence that it's possible. Other nations, such as Tanzania, Zambia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, are also studying the new mining code. Tanzania has already renegotiated old contracts. Zambia is planning stricter controls on copper exports. And the DRC has been pushing for a bigger share of profits from cobalt, one of the most valuable minerals in the world. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, drop a comment, and subscribe to our channel.